Subject: she forced me to move to New York, then cheated. Hello, true story. My name's Omar. And first off, I just want to thank you for your channel. Man, if I had found it earlier in my life, maybe I would have recognized some red flags and saved myself years of stress. But hey, sometimes you have to go through the storm to really learn. This is a long story, and I'll do my best to lay it out clearly. A lot of people have written to you about open marriages, divorces, cheating, you name it. Mine is probably one of the classic ones. A young marriage, big city dreams, a stubborn wife who swore she knew better, and me ignoring my gut instincts until it all blew up in my face. How it all started. So I was born and raised in Ohio, Columbus area. My dad has worked in engineering for over 20 years. He started as a junior engineer and worked his way up, and by the time I was in college, he had built a solid reputation in the industry. He wasn't some CEO, but he was well respected and had connections. Everyone always said I was lucky because if I wanted to, I could step right into a job with him once I graduated. And that's exactly what happened. During my senior year of college, Dad told me, "Listen, Omar, when you graduate, I've got a spot waiting for you at the firm." This wasn't some handout either. I had been interning there summers, learning the ropes, so it made sense. Honestly, it felt like a blessing. A guaranteed solid job right out of school in a state where the cost of living was reasonable. But then, enter my then wife. We met in college, sophomore year. I'll call her Lila for this story. She was from a small town in Indiana, came from a very average family. Nothing bad, but nothing special. We met at a campus event, hit it off, started dating, and by senior year, we were married. Yeah, I know. Young, right? People always warned me, but I thought we were different. I thought we were in love, and honestly, at the time it felt right. The trouble started after graduation. I was excited to get settled into my career in Columbus. Lila, not so much. The New York dream. Lila had this big dream of moving to a major city. She was always talking about New York. I remember one night in our little off-campus apartment, she literally said, "Ohio is boring. I can't imagine living here forever." Don't you want more out of life? Don't you want excitement? Don't you want Times Square every weekend? Times Square every weekend. That's literally how she sold it to me. Like standing in a crowd of tourists, lights flashing in your face was somehow the pinnacle of existence. I told her, "Look, I have a solid job offer here. My dad worked his butt off for 20 years, and he's literally got a spot waiting for me. If I go to New York, I'll be starting from scratch, and the cost of living." But she wouldn't let it go. She cried, she guilt-tripped, she told me I was ruining her life by living in fear. She said if we stayed in Ohio, we'd get stuck, never see the world, never do anything big. I should have stood firm. I should have said, "No, this is the smart choice." But I was young, newly married, and still in that mindset of happy wife, happy life. So I caved. I started applying to companies in New York. And honestly, it felt hopeless. Competition was insane. But then, one of my college friends who had moved out there put me in touch with the company. That connection was the only reason I even got an interview. When I told Lila about it, she literally squealed and said, "See, it's meant to be." I remember thinking, meant to be? Or just you pushing me until I caved? Anyway, I prepped like crazy, flew out with her for the interview, and actually landed the job. They offered me a position starting in 4 months. Lila acted like she had just won the lottery. Moving to New York, we packed up everything we could, left most of our belongings at our parents' places back in Ohio and Indiana, and headed to New York. Man, that was an adjustment. We found this shoebox of an apartment in Queens. Calling it a 1-bedroom was generous. It was basically one open room with a tiny bathroom. If I stretched my arms, I could almost touch both walls in the kitchen. Rent was ridiculous, but hey, that's New York. I started my job, and on paper, the salary was fantastic. But the reality, That money vanished fast. Between rent, utilities, food, and just existing in the city, it was like pouring water into sand. If I made that salary in Ohio, I'd have been living like a king. In New York, I was scraping by. Meanwhile, Lila didn't have a job. She said she was looking, but weeks turned into months. Eventually, almost 2 years went by before she finally landed a job as a server in a cafe. And let me tell you, she hated it. She acted like working was beneath her. She'd come home exhausted, complaining about customers, about her manager, about tips. She wanted some glamorous job in media or fashion, but those jobs don't just fall in your lap because you moved to New York. The cracks start to show. At first, I tried to be patient. I told myself, she's adjusting. She'll figure it out. But the resentment grew. I hated the train rides. Every day I dealt with crazy people. One guy literally started yelling Bible verses at me one morning. Another time, a woman just started singing opera at full volume for 20 straight minutes. You see the strangest things on the subway. Sometimes funny, sometimes scary. I remember thinking, man, I traded my car and a 20-minute commute for this. The final straw came after one big argument. Lila was sitting on the couch one night, and she just exploded. I'm tired of working. You make so much money, I shouldn't have to pay for anything. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. I said, do you have any idea what our finances look like? On paper, yeah, it looks like I'm making bank. But after rent, bills, groceries, and just existing here, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. She didn't care. She rolled her eyes and basically said, I was making excuses. That's when things shifted. She got colder, more distant, started guarding her phone, staying late after work. Classic signs. The cheating. I'll admit, this is when I first found your channel, True Story. I was looking up stuff about relationships, red flags, and cheating. Something in my gut just knew. So one day, when she left her phone in the bathroom, I looked. At first, nothing. She was smart about it. But the second time, I dug deeper, found hidden threads. That's when I saw his name, Tyler. He worked at the cafe with her, and not just flirty messages, full-on relationship, talking about how much they loved sneaking away, talking about how I was just boring Omar from Ohio, photos, plans to meet up, even details about how they'd skip shifts and go to his parents' house to hook up. I felt sick. I confronted her that night. I told her I knew everything. At first, she tried to deny it. Then she just broke down screaming. I told her it was over. We were getting divorced. Divorce and aftermath. Getting divorced while living in New York but married in Ohio? What a mess. It was paperwork, lawyers, back and forth, money wasted. But I stuck to it. I was done. When she realized I wasn't bluffing, she flipped. She begged me not to leave, not because she loved me, but because she knew she couldn't afford New York on her little cafe salary. She said she'd have to move back to Indiana, and she didn't want to give up on her dream. That was her dream, not mine. I was done sacrificing for her dreams. So I packed up, finalized the divorce, and moved back to Columbus. I started working with my dad at the engineering firm, and man, what a breath of fresh air. Lower cost of living, a steady job, family nearby, real support. As for Lila, last I heard, she's still in New York, still struggling, still chasing something that doesn't exist. I'll leave it there for now, but I'll send a follow-up about how life has been since the divorce. Spoiler alert, I'm doing great, better than ever, and I have no regrets about leaving her behind. Thanks for reading. Life after leaving New York, my follow-up. Hello again, True Story. This is Omar. I wrote you not too long ago about my ex-wife pushing me to leave Ohio, dragging me to New York, and then cheating on me with the guy from her cafe job. First off, I just want to say thank you for the reply. I know I'm not alone. This email is my follow-up. You said you welcome updates, and man, I've got plenty. Divorce is never the end of the story. It's really the beginning of a whole new life. Mine has been full of lessons, some small victories, a lot of reflection, and honestly, peace I never thought I'd feel again. Leaving New York. When I left New York, I'll admit, it felt like failure at first. I remember packing my little suitcase, looking around that shoebox apartment, and realizing how much of myself I had sacrificed for someone else's dream. I thought about the nights I rode the subway half asleep, the paychecks that disappeared into rent, and the fights that never ended. All for what? To stand in Times Square a few times and take pictures? The day I left, I remember sitting in LaGuardia, waiting for my flight back to Columbus. I had my headphones in, but no music was playing. I was just staring at the terminal, thinking, I wasted years of my life chasing her fantasy. That thought hurt, but it was also freeing, because in that moment, I realized it was over. No more subway arguments, no more excuses about job hunting, no more Tyler from the cafe. When the plane lifted off, I looked out the window and saw the skyline fading. Instead of sadness, I felt relief, rebuilding in Columbus. Back home, my dad welcomed me with open arms. He didn't even say, I told you so, though he could have 100 times over. He just said, glad you're home, son. Let's get to work. Working at his firm has been one of the biggest blessings in my life. The pace is steady, the environment is professional, and best of all, I don't feel like I'm drowning financially. My salary goes so much further in Ohio than it ever did in New York. Instead of living paycheck to paycheck, I'm saving. I bought myself a reliable car, something I couldn't have even thought about affording in New York, and the little things feel so good. Driving to work with coffee in my cup holder instead of cramming onto a train next to someone shouting nonsense. Coming home to quiet instead of honking horns and paper-thin walls. Being able to visit my parents on a Sunday afternoon without a 10-hour drive. It's the life I wanted in the first place, and I can't believe I ever let myself give it up. Adjusting emotionally. Now I won't lie, even after I moved back, it wasn't like I instantly felt healed. Divorce is rough. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have nights where I sat in my new apartment in Columbus, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Why didn't I put my foot down? Why did I let her push me into that city? Why didn't I see the signs sooner? Those questions haunted me for a while, but then I started realizing beating myself up wasn't helping. I can't change the past. What I can do is learn from it. So I started making changes. I went to the gym again. I picked up some hobbies I had dropped back in college, playing guitar, jogging by the river, even cooking. You'd be surprised how healing it is to cook for yourself after years of tense dinners where everything ended in an argument. I also started therapy. Best decision I ever made. Sitting down with someone objective, telling them the whole story and hearing them say, you know, Omar, this isn't your failure, it's her selfishness, lifted a weight off my shoulders. Seeing my ex from afar, people ask me sometimes if I've heard from Lila. The answer, oh yes, she's still in New York. Social media makes it impossible not to see little pieces of her life. Every now and then, a photo will pop up through mutual friends. She's still posting selfies in Times Square, still talking about the hustle, still working at the same cafe. From what I can tell, she never landed the glamorous career she swore was waiting for her in the city. Once she even tried to reach out. She texted me, out of nowhere, saying, hope you're doing well. New York has been tough, but I've grown a lot. Would love to catch up. I stared at that message for a long time, and then I deleted it. No response. She made her bed, she can lie in it. Reflections on marriage. Looking back, I've realized something important. Marriage doesn't fail overnight. It dies in little pieces. When she first started dismissing my dreams and pushing hers, that was a crack. When she guilt-tripped me about moving, another crack. When she refused to find a job for nearly 2 years, the wall was caving in. The cheating with Tyler, that was just the final blow. The truth is, she didn't love me. She loved the idea of a lifestyle she thought I could give her. And when that lifestyle didn't match the Instagram fantasy in her head, she went looking elsewhere. It hurts to admit that, but it also makes me grateful I found out when I did. Imagine if I had stayed, had kids with her, built more years of resentment. No thanks, rediscovering myself. One of the best parts of life after divorce has been rediscovering who I am without someone else's voice in my ear 24/7. I've reconnected with old friends, friends who I pushed away because Lila didn't like them, or because she always wanted to control how I spent my weekends. Now I can go grab wings and a beer with my buddies on a Friday night and not feel guilty. I've taken trips, small ones, nothing crazy. Weekend trips to Cleveland, Cincinnati, even Chicago. Just me, my car, and some good music. No pressure, no drama, no arguments in hotel lobbies. Just peace. I even started dating casually again. Nothing serious yet, but it feels good to know there are women out there who don't see me as just a paycheck or a ticket to their dream city. Lessons learned. If I could sum up everything I've learned, it would be this. Listen to your gut. When something feels off, it probably is. I knew moving to New York was wrong for me, but I let myself be convinced otherwise. Don't let guilt run your marriage. Compromise is part of relationships, sure, but when one person always compromises and the other never does, it's not love, it's manipulation. Cheating is never about you. It's about their character, their lack of integrity. I could have been the perfect husband, and she still would have cheated because she lacked loyalty. Peace is priceless. No amount of city lights or big opportunities is worth sacrificing your peace of mind. Where I am now. So where am I today? I'm 30, working steadily at the engineering firm. I've got my own place in Columbus. Not huge, but comfortable. I'm financially stable, mentally clearer than I've ever been, and honestly happy. Do I still think about her sometimes? Sure, but not with longing, with relief. Relief that I got out when I did. Relief that I learned these lessons before it was too late. She's still in New York clinging to her fantasy. I'm in Ohio, living in reality, and I wouldn't trade places with her for the world. So that's my follow-up true story. I'm doing great, better than I thought I ever would be after that mess. And if there are guys out there listening who are on the fence, who feel like they're being dragged into something they don't want, listen to me. Stand your ground. Don't sacrifice your whole life for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. Thanks for reading this update. Maybe one day I'll send a third part, who knows? But for now, I just wanted you and your listeners to know that I came out the other side, stronger, wiser, and free. Sincerely,